Well, what
home.
Hank was up to, can you guess?
Was he making music?
He was making music, kind of, but mostly he was drinking.
Oh, yes.
He meets one of his musical heroes, the aforementioned Roy Acuff. So he meets Roy, and Roy tells him, "You've got $1 million voice and a 10-cent brain." You are listening to Tape Spaghetti, a show about the twisted and tangled innards of the music industry. Some of this content may not be for all listeners or viewers, so if it isn't for you, no harm, no foul. We'll just catch you on the next one. All right, without further ado, let's get into this episode. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our, now nameless podcast, because we haven't figured that out yet. And the name we were using for all 5 previous recordings has been taken. So welcome to, for now, Blake and Scott's nameless podcast. But hopefully we'll have a name by the time
you hear
you're
this.
hearing this. Yeah.
It'll be named. It'll make sense.
Yeah. I never thought I'd be in this predicament. Naming bands is easier. Naming companies is easier, I think.
Well, maybe it'll be a little bit easier later tonight, since it is, in fact, St. Patrick's Day on the very day that we're recording this.
Yes, got my green on.
Once we loosen those gears a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What you, dear listener, may not know is that Blake and I are both very Irish.
Yes. It is in the blood.
What percentage Irish are you, Blake?
I don't actually know.
Okay. I did the 23andMe test a couple of years ago, and I'm 75%.
My grandpa did it, and I can't remember what percentage he was, but that was not even the Irish side. So he's pretty. He was fairly Irish, and that's not the Irish side.
And that's not the Irish side. So yes. Yeah, it's one of those things. The same thing exists with like Puerto Rico, where there are more Irish people not in Ireland than there are in Ireland. Mm-hmm. Because when you live on a small island, population is innately constrained a bit. And then when people from that island leave to go elsewhere, it is no longer constrained. And so they multiply. And there are a great many Irish people.
There are a lot of us out there, and people used to not like us very well.
No, they didn't. They didn't. My wife is Italian presenting. She's like half Italian, or like a portion Italian, a portion English. And it turns out there's like a long history of Irish and Italian people like marrying, an Irish woman and an Italian man, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Because when we all came in this country, they didn't like either of us very much.
Right.
And we found ourselves relegated to becoming criminals or cops, seemingly, and then kind of ran in the same circles. Mm-hmm. So there's a long history of that.
That pencils.
Two very different sides of the European continent.
Well,
also we're all Catholic.
Oh, well, there's that too.
So there's that too.
Yeah. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but I, as somebody, with roots in the Emerald Isle, would feel remiss not mentioning that it's St. Patrick's Day. I love that place. I know you recently went there. I still dream about my vacation there. It was amazing, and I desperately want to go back. I love it there.
It's a beautiful place. I only made it into Dublin. I never made it outside of there. Though I did go to a castle out a little bit outside of Dublin to see an LCD Sound System concert that was amazing. But that's the furthest I went. I was just there for like a quick, 48 hours, something like that.
Wow, that's not enough.
Yeah, it was a quick turn. But I love like sampling places, like destinations, in like a little taste, and then you kind of identify the ones that you want to go back to, because it's usually like surprising.
Yeah, Ireland, we meaning me and my wife, were constantly like, got to go back. We both follow this. We splurged. We were in our early 20s and had no children. So we stayed at a very fancy castle for a few days. And we both follow that castle on Instagram, which is a bit of a mistake.
Oh, yeah. So you're always like, I want to be there. I'm
like, I want to go back and do falconry again.
I have never dabbled in the falconic arts.
Oh, I don't know anything about it, because the guy, I just held my arm out, basically. And the bird landed on my arm, and I felt like I was truly at home.
Are you aware of the people on the internet that think that birds don't exist?
Yes. I can't figure out if that's a hoax.
If they're
serious, or if they're kind of like flying spaghetti monster people.
It's a little hard to tell, but I like it. They basically, for people that don't know, they basically just believe that birds are made up.
Yes.
You see them, but the things that you see, they're not. They're not real.
They're government drones.
Yeah. And how could a living thing fly anyway? Really?
I mean,
that seems ridiculous.
You know what? That same kind of thought process. I don't think whales are real.
Interesting.
How could something that big swim?
That's interesting.
Whales
are kind of the opposite of birds.
You ever seen a person that big swim?
So no, but there is. I do know, because when I was playing basketball in growing up, our 8th grade or freshman year basketball coach, his name was Fonzo, and he was prone to long sort of monologues that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Beautiful.
That was how our halftime speeches never really revolved around basketball. It was just him, much like this podcast, just waxing about nothing in particular, really. And he was telling us, he was like, I can't swim because I have too much muscle. He's like, I'm 7% body fat. I just sink. And he's like, but those big girls, you always see them, they just float right to the top. And we were like, oh yeah. And he's like, oh sure. yeah, great big girls, great swimmers, unbelievable swimmers. We're like, okay. And he's like, all right, now let's turn it around the second half. We're like, okay.
What is that supposed to be inspiring?
No.
Oh,
no, I don't think so. Like I said, I think he just had to fill the time, and was like, oh, I'll just, we can't be playing for another couple minutes. I may as well as tell you my thoughts on swimming. And other things.
I kind of like that for some reason. That's just like really seems of the time, it seems right for the time you would have been playing basketball. What would have this been, the early 2000s, right?
You're looking at me like I didn't just come off the court right now. Do I not look like a man deeply involved in competitive basketball? I am not. This would have been like 2006.
I was going to say, you look like you, let's see, how should I phrase this? You and I think, look exactly like we both play basketball about the same amount. Yeah.
You don't look like you play basketball at all. You look like you are the basketball.
I'm a cube. It's a little bit hard to dribble a cube,
That would be difficult. All those edges.
Yes, it's kind of weird. Well, what I have brought for you today, Scott, has literally nothing to do with anything that we just talked about.
Fantastic. Good. I was worried.
But it is deeply tied to everything that we do, I feel like, in a lot of ways.
You said do. Please continue.
Oh, my groove has been
just wanted to note it.
Let's mark this clip so we can use that for the teaser for this episode. Yeah, that's important. I am talking today about probably one of the most important musical icons ever. Definitely in your city, though. Yes. Today, we're talking about Hank Williams.
Wow. That's exciting.
Yeah. Now, let me tell you where this started from and what it turned into. It started where I wanted to tell you some stories about Hank Williams from the other side. Okay. And we are going to get into that. Spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't know, Hank Williams is no longer with us and hasn't been for quite some time.
Nor is Junior, right?
Oh no, Junior's still kicking.
Is he? Okay, I thought he maybe. I was thinking he had passed.
No.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay.
Yeah. No, he's
a country boy can survive.
He can. I saw him. He's like 74, 76.
Okay.
Doing like karate kicks on stage. Like he's still killing it. I don't know how, but he is.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, that's a relief.
Now you know that you can sleep better.
Yes, that turned my whole day around.
But today we're talking about Hank Williams, and I want to get into, kind of his story. Some historians may be a little bit upset with this telling of it because I'm glossing over some details because it's a little murky, but this is one rare situation where we can get into most of his career because it wasn't very long. Like
it's true.
It was super impactful, super important, super related to Nashville. But really not, he just wasn't alive very long. He was only 29 when he passed.
I had not realized that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, he did a lot in those short years.
Yeah, it was about this is a 10, 12 year where he was really doing it. Like, and just kind of made the biggest splash in the world. And well, we'll get into it. What happened exactly?
Let's get into it.
Yeah. So Hank Williams was, his real name is Hiram King Williams, born September 17th.
How do you get rid of Hiram?
Hiram's pretty good. I mean, Hiram King.
Yeah, Hiram the King Williams.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But he got shortened to Hank at some point, and that's just kind of stuck. That doesn't exactly suck though. Hank's
not
good.
Bad.
Yeah. So born September 17th, 1923 in Butler County, Alabama. So as much as he's been associated with Tennessee, he's not from Tennessee, like most people from Tennessee. Right?
This is a common thing.
Yes. At least
we do have a lot of the legendary country folks like are in fact from Tennessee, but just as many, if not probably more, came from somewhere else, frequently in the Southeast though, which he very much is.
True. So for those who don't know, he is known as the Hillbilly Shakespeare and the father of both kinds of music, country and Western.
See, I feel like, at some point country ate Western. It used to be country Western music. And then that just got consumed inside of country. Yeah. Though Western, the Western side still exists in Texas red dirt and Oklahoma, style stuff, but not the Nashville stuff.
It's that Western swing really went away.
Yeah.
It didn't go away. There's still, got to be careful there. There's a very devout following of Western swing listeners that would be very mad. It just shrunk in its relevance. It used to be just as relevant as country. And you're right. I think country kind of overshadowed it and absorbed it a little bit to some degree, much like bluegrass. I think had a similar thing happen.
That's an interesting point.
Less extreme way. Bluegrass still seems to be a little more of an independent thing, and bluegrass musicians would be really upset to hear me say that. But
they're related. I feel like what kind of happened there is genres go through this sort of life cycle where they're a relevant genre, and then they're cranking out new hits and finding new relevance all the time. And then at some point, certain genres kind of fall off that wagon a little bit. And never completely, right? But jazz or some classical, famous examples of this where yes, of course, there's still great stuff being made. But ultimately, if you go to sit down and study it, you're mostly looking at stuff from many decades ago. Bluegrass, I think, kind of the same thing happened. And then that Western swing music, kind of a similar thing too, where they feel almost like museum pieces, people play this music as a nod to the past more than anything.
Well, I think when both of those started, they actually were fairly progressive for the time.
Oh, always. Yeah.
And so it was wow, I've never heard anybody do that before. But then it kind of capped out where that genre's limitations are.
Every genre of music, so if I was to define the arc, every genre of music was created to upset parents at a given time.
Yes.
No matter how silly it may seem, every genre was deeply upsetting to whoever was old at that time. And then at some point, it passes through this whole cycle and it ends when people are getting PhDs in the music and it feels like you have to wear suits to play the music. That is where it becomes this is my grandfather's music. That's when it's kind of at the other end of the arc.
Well, that's what's weird. We're approaching that arc with some of our stuff, and now it's oh yeah, when my kids have kids, they're gonna be remember when Grandpa used to listen to Entombed? It's gonna be kind of weird, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like Lil Jon and the East Side Boys is gonna be playing in the retirement homes.
Right.
It'll be very odd. They'll be playing Get Low, and no one will be able to get very low, but we'll be trying.
Yeah, we'll be doing our best, right? From Hank Williams to Lil Jon. That's where this podcast can go. So back to Hank Williams. So his dad in 1930 suffered a partial face paralysis, which he kind of just couldn't, he was just having a hard time. Turns out that was a kind of an early stage thing when he had a brain aneurysm and literally couldn't do anything. I think Hank was around 8-ish at this time. And so his mom, Lily, she just hit the grinder. She was just all right, it's the depression and I'm it.
Yep.
My family needs me. So she just started working like crazy.
I presume he comes from a big family. I feel like everyone in that era, there's like 8 children.
You know, I don't know if they had time to have that many kids in the
fair
weird
enough.
way. Because he was so, his dad was just so unwell. You know, I don't actually remember how many siblings they had of the era. He probably did have some, but that's not somewhere I looked into super hard.
Yeah, but she's having to hustle regardless to make ends meet for the family.
Yeah, it's right at the start of the Great Depression. You know, they're living in Alabama. It's rough. She is just gone all the time. And on top of that, Hank was born with a condition that would play a huge role in his entire life called spina bifida. Which is a bulging of the nerves in your spinal column. And it takes some different forms, but it causes him a lot of pain his whole life. From day one, he was just basically in a tremendous amount of back pain, which leads to a lot of
That's surprising. From the music, you wouldn't know that he was in pain.
Oh, yeah. I'm so lonesome I could cry. Yeah. Yeah, you would never know that man was really suffering with anything, would you?
No. I'm sorry to make light of his this terrible chronic condition. I didn't know that about him.
Yeah. It's something that while everyone kind of knows his name, a lot of people don't realize that was actually the root of a lot of his issues. Yeah, was this chronic back issue. But anyway, that we'll get into that later. So she actually bought Hank his first guitar. So. Depression, she's working like crazy. She's making about 25 cents a day, and the guitar costs about $3.50. Okay. So, you know, you can kind of, she had to work quite a bit. Like
she was saving it up because I doubt she had a bunch of extra income. You know?
Yeah, but she did buy him that guitar, and he kind of just immediately was just so excited about it. In fact, his mom tells this really weird story that I have a hard time like processing how these events took place. So she shows him the guitar because he'd been wanting it, and he gets so excited apparently that he runs out and grabs a cow by the tail. And then like the cow, obviously not a big fan, has a reaction of some sort, and he ends up like tumbling and like hurting himself. It's a very weird, like, cool, I got a guitar. Let me go grab that cow.
Let me go grab a cow by the tail.
Yeah, I don't fully understand how that happened, but that's the story that's told.
See, and I feel like most people's reaction to getting a guitar is attempting, however futilely, to play the guitar.
Yes.
It's wild to get it and then like set it down and be like, there's one thing I got to do first.
That's right.
I need to go tug on Bessie's tail.
Yeah, let me go get that thing a yank. But, you know, maybe it's an Alabama thing. I don't know.
It could be.
Yeah. I've never been there. I'm just...
You never been to Alabama?
I've never been to Alabama, no.
I've been to Alabama.
Well, you kind of live down there.
A few times.
A few times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a nice place. I like Birmingham a lot. I haven't been there in years. I used to go down for like this sort of small music festival that Good People Brewing would put on. That was a lot of fun. And there was one place that I remember. You in Birmingham, you could get a card at this one bar at least, where you would you pay them $1 and you're a member of the bar. Okay. And because it's a private club, not a bar, even though totally it's like a bar, you can just walk in or whatever. But because of this private club thing, they serve alcohol 24 hours a day.
Oh,
bar never closes. So you can be there until 8 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm usually looking for a sip on something at about 8 a.m.
About 8 a.m. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Just before finally laying down for the night.
That's right. Which, yeah, you probably knew this, but that is going to play a heavy role in today's tale.
I had a feeling that it might.
So leading right into that, so Hank, during this time, he meets a local blues performer named Rufus Payne. That's his real name. He's known as T-Tot.
It's a little on the nose, but I'll allow it.
Yeah. Can you imagine why he's known as T-Tot? Probably
no.
Not.
Oh, because he didn't drink. He's a teetotaler?
Yes. Yeah. He was yep, you're on the right track. And they called him that because he did indeed drink a lot. He carried with him a little homemade mixture of booze and tea that he kind of kept on him at all times.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
So they know that he was known as T-Tot.
He was toting the tea and the alcohol.
Exactly.
I guess it's implied in teetotaling that there's no alcohol in the tea, but this is not the case for Mr. Payne.
Exactly. So he taught him some stuff, mostly on like the showmanship and like performance aspects. He was like, showed him some blues guitar stuff, of course, and you can hear some of that in Hank's music. But it was really like, here's how you get the people into it type of thing. And it wasn't like a lifelong thing. That didn't last very long, but it was an early inspiration. It's basically him and Roy Acuff mixed with Hank's just like knack for songwriting in terms of phrase and melody. That's pretty much it. It's blues, Roy Acuff, and Hank's natural tendencies all coming together to form some magic stuff, really.
My wife's family, there are the Acuffs. They were the fifth family in Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
And they're not like direct to Roy, but I believe it's like all in the same general jumble there.
Colby Acuff, not related at all. One of my favorite current country artists. So there you go. He's from Idaho. I don't know how he got an Acuff name, but you know,
they're all over.
They spread out. So in 1937, Hank won a talent contest on a radio station. He made I can't remember how he exactly won what song he performed, but they liked him so much that they hired him. So he won the spotlight, and then he got a job playing at that radio station all the time.
I very much in my head am picturing the radio station in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yes.
Where they record that's what sounds like 1937 radio station talent show.
I think that is exactly what it was. I don't think that's too far off. I don't think he did Man of Constant Sorrow, but I think that's probably a decent imagery or decent image there. So he started working for the radio station, and for the first time, he's actually making some money. So he's making $15 a week performing at this radio station, which is about $300 in today's.
It's a lot
cash.
more than his mom was making a couple of years prior.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not too far removed from that, right? So he continued to work the station, and he's trying to write, and he's performing with his band. And, you know, you can probably guess what may have happened sometime in the 1940s.
What?
WW2.
Oh, that. Yes. And that really disrupts his thing. I did want to note that I think even today, making $300 a week on music puts you in like the top 1 or 2% of musicians making money on music.
Right. Yes. Off of pure writing music.
Pure nothing but that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So he's trying to perform with his band. His band all gets drafted. He doesn't get drafted because
spina bifida.
Exactly. So he's on a medical exclusion list, and he's like, okay, but my band's gone. So
I have always wanted to know more of like what it was like for the dudes that like got kind of left behind when the draft happened in World War II. Like what they were up to.
Well, what Hank was up to, can you guess?
Was he making music?
He was making music, kind of, but mostly he was drinking.
Oh, yes. That's another good way to pass the time.
Yeah. So he's in immense pain from this, and now he kind of has nothing going on. He's not married at this point, so he's drinking a lot, and that is causing him some problems, as you can imagine. So he eventually gets fired from the radio station for no shows, incoherent performances, the things that happen when you
had one job.
Yeah, exactly.
You just had to show up and play.
That's all you had to do. And I don't even think.
But him and like, T-Tot were sitting out below the bridge.
I think T-Tot
sipping on some of that tea, and I'm not forgetting about T-Tot.
Don't forget about him. No, he's important. But that is where his story ends as far as this story goes. I don't know what happened to him after that. But he gets fired from the radio station, but not before he meets one of his musical heroes, the aforementioned Roy Acuff.
Oh.
So he meets Roy, and Roy tells him, you've got $1 million voice and a 10-cent brain.
$1 million in 1940 something money is, probably like for our modern listeners, it's like saying he got $1 billion voice and a $2 brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to that. Yeah. I know it can be hard to hear these numbers from the past.
Yeah, exactly. And that was because he's like, dude, you're wasting your life because you're so drunk all the time. Like you're just constantly hammered. You can't do this. You have this insane talent. You should be a superstar. But you're throwing your life away, son. I don't know how much that actually affected how Hank handled life, though, because I think from all accounts, he never really seemed to quit boozing. Maybe he would go through ups and downs where there was a little less, but the hooch was always right there.
It can be a hard habit to kick. Maybe he just invested more in the brain side.
Well, his brain obviously was pretty magical because he could write songs super fast.
Yeah.
Like he was very good at what he did. But at that point, he's at a pretty low place. He's fired from the station. He can't keep a band together. He's single. So he starts working at shipyards. So he's working at shipyards in Alabama. And I just found this out doing my research. He had a brief stint in Portland, Oregon, working at the docks, which I had no idea. Yeah.
That's a heck of a long way from Alabama.
That is a long way from Alabama. And it is and was a busy port. So it's not like it was unknown that was a shipping hub. So probably one of the few in the country, really, that were well known. But yeah, he actually, I had no idea that Hank Williams ever even set foot in Portland, Oregon. I had no idea he came up here, but I thought that was kind of cool.
I mean, I guess if you were leaving Butler County, Alabama, and you were like just driving until you found docks and you headed in the exact wrong direction, Portland would be the first dock that you would encounter many, many days later.
Yes, this is true. I think that maybe is even what happened. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me in this particular situation. So he's working, this is back in Alabama, I believe. He's working at the shipyards. He's still hammered, but he meets this lady named Audrey Shepard. And Audrey Shepard, at first, they're just kind of friends. They're both working at the docks together, but they eventually become lovers, of course. And they get married at a Texaco gas station in 1944 by a justice of the peace.
Amazing.
Yes, which I kind of love. I wish I got married at a Texaco gas station.
Yeah. I mean, like, do gas stations have the thing that ships have where it's like, I'm the manager of this gas station, which means that I am entitled to marry anyone on its premises?
You know, and I was wondering, how did they get the justice of the peace there? You know, because that is how they did it. At least that's how it was written.
Well, probably via car.
One would imagine. I would figure. Was he just filling up? Like, hey, you're a justice of the peace. Can you marry us?
I don't know what a justice of the peace like really means.
It's an official thing in the government that can marry people. I know.
Okay, much. Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I gleaned that part. I've like heard that phrase, but when I really think about it, I don't know. I mean, I know what is that a judge? Is it I'm not sure.
I assume it's a judge. That makes sense to me.
If somebody told me, like, I'm like, what do you do for work? And they're like, oh, I'm a justice of the peace. I'd be like, oh, wow. Like, wait, what do you do?
Yeah. Wait, what does that mean exactly?
Like, I marry people.
Yeah. Gas stations.
At the gas stations.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I do at Texaco in 1944. So Audrey is instrumental, no pun intended, in getting him back on the musical bandwagon. So she's like, you've really got something here. Go get your job at the radio station, get slightly off the sauce, and get together. You've got something really special here. And so he does. He actually is able to get his job back at the radio station somehow. And he actually puts out a song book called The Songs of Hank Williams. That's the first thing that he really got known for.
Wow. Before even like recording music, it's the...
Well, he was on the radio, so people had heard it.
Well, true. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But he was known for this book of songs, and that put him on the map for Nashville people.
So it's kind of like in the way that, like, you know, you see Gordon Ramsay or somebody like cooking all this stuff on TV, and then eventually he's like, I've made a book with all the stuff that you've seen me do,
right?
That you can do yourself. It's more like that entry.
I think that is actually a pretty good analysis of what happened from what I can gather. So yeah, the songs of Hank Williams, and it's not like this totally drags him out of poverty or anything, but it's where people started going like, hey, who's this guy? You know, type of thing. So he starts getting more popular. His show gets more popular. His recordings are starting to get more popular. And he eventually lands on a really important gig on something called the Louisiana Hayride. Does that sound familiar to you?
It sure doesn't. Sounds like fun.
You probably have seen things from it before. There's a guy named Elvis Aaron Presley. Who also got a big start.
Is he related to Elvis the King Presley?
I think, yeah, they're probably the same person.
Okay.
From what I gather. Yeah. So this is almost certainly seen these photos of Elvis playing the Louisiana Hayride. It was kind of like number 2 to the Grand Ole Opry.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a very, very, very well-known show. And we got to remember at the time, radio was it.
Yeah.
I mean, Louisiana Hayride eventually had TV elements too, as did the Grand Ole Opry. But at this time, it's all radio. Mm-hmm. And the radio is what everybody gathered around. You didn't gather around the TV. You didn't gather around the iPad. It was the central hub of the home where everybody just listened to stuff. And so,
when the radio was like a piece of furniture, first and foremost, like a big wooden box that you'd sit around and listen to Orson Welles read The War of the Worlds or whatever.
Exactly. So this is huge. This is like what's starting to catapult him into like real legit fame. So he's on the Louisiana Hayride, and then eventually, and I'm yada-yadaing over so much of what happened. Obviously, there's many shows played. Many different things have happened to get him here. So he plays the Louisiana Hayride. The next thing is what the aforementioned Grand Ole Opry. Mm-hmm. Now, we need to set the stage a little bit for you living in Nashville obviously know a lot about this. I'm obsessed with the country music history. So
in many ways, you know more about country music history than I do. So,
but you know about WSM and the Grand Ole Opry and the writer.
Sure.
Like know what those things are. Mm-hmm. So for those that don't, WSM was the radio station that produced the Grand Ole Opry. The Grand Ole Opry is the longest running radio broadcast in the United States. It's ran since 1925. It was originally called the WSM Barn Dance. So they changed it for some reason. I'm not sure how it got the name Grand Ole Opry. If that was like the nickname and then that just stuck a little bit better. It certainly sounds a little more impressive than the Barn Dance to me. Although Barn Dance can be.
It sounds fun too. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is huge. This is trying to think of even what the modern equivalent is, because this was the thing that everyone listened to. I feel like the best version of those things we have now is like playing late night or SNL, but even then it's not like everyone's tuning into that show. No, we don't really have that centerpiece that everybody watches anymore. Even in the 90s, it was like, oh, did you catch SNL? And people pretty much did. The answer was usually yes. And
the monoculture has splintered.
It's definitely splintered. So, I mean, I love it or hate it. I'm not saying it either way, but the best thing I can think of modern equivalent is like, did you see that guy on Rogan?
Oh, that's an interesting point. Yeah.
That's about the closest we've got to something that people, even if you don't watch that or know that, you know about it type of thing. So Grand Ole Opry was that, just the thing that everybody watched and listened to. Mostly listened to at this point. So it's huge. And it is broadcast out of something called the Ryman Auditorium. Mm-hmm. The Ryman Auditorium now is one of the most famous music venues in the world. It is famous because, as somebody who has seen many shows there, it sounds absolutely incredible.
It does sound really good.
It's one of the best sounding venues I've
ever
been
any of those old theaters where they built them before they had PAs. So they're like, we need to make sure that we can hear you playing your acoustic guitar on the stage from way up high. So you had to build that acoustically.
It's called the Mother Church of Country Music because it was originally a church. Mm-hmm. And it was designed so you could hear the preacher with no microphone yelling down there on the stage, clear in the back. And it's a decent size venue. I'm not sure how many seats it is, but
I want to say it's like 2,000 cap, maybe.
That sounds about right.
Something, plus or minus 500 or so.
Yeah. I was going to guess 2,500.
It's a good size.
But it's, and this is back then. So it was huge for back then. And it's just only grown in fame. Yeah, they have everybody there. There are podcasters that play there now sometimes.
That's true. There. Yeah, now that there's like podcasters on tour and whatnot. And of course, the Grand Ole Opry itself has been divorced from the Ryman for a little while in terms of its venue that moved out by the mall.
Right.
in Opry Mills. But still.
Yeah, and it's about the same size. It's a little bigger, I think. Not radically so. But yeah, it moved out 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Yeah,
it used to be this cool theme park called Opryland. And then they bulldozed the theme park and built a shopping mall.
Oh, cool.
Called Opry Mills.
Lame.
Which which is nothing of quite the same thing, really. But there's a big hotel out there, and that's where the Opry is and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. If you go to Nashville,
I'm resisting the urge to make like a bunch of detour things here. I'm going to not do that and let you keep going.
Well, it is relevant though, because there's actually something that happens there that we get into later. Mm-hmm. So the Ryman is just, I guess, to put a finer point on it, it is huge at this time, and it is one of the most famous venues in the world even today. Yeah. It is a big deal.
So this is his big break. This is like, oh my God, I'm getting to do this.
Yep. And at this point, he's very well known, but this is like the household name, maker, basically. So he plays the Grand Ole Opry. He gets called back for an encore 6 times.
Whoa.
Yeah. They would not let him leave. They would not stop.
Holy Moses.
Yeah. And this is back when an encore was a real encore.
Yeah. Not just a standard thing that every band does at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm. Where it's weird when people don't do an encore.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gaslight Anthem will semi-famously, Brian's just like, I don't want to do an encore. We're just going to stay up here and play 3 more songs. So when we leave, we're really leaving.
Yeah. The dumb pageantry of like, we're going to walk to the back and then we're going to come back again, as you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But this is a big deal.
Yeah, this is a real one. And 6 times. So he leaves and comes back 6 times.
Wow.
Like, people cannot get enough. They are freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Just on their feet. It's huge. Absolutely huge. So he is killing it on the biggest stage, the biggest show, the biggest crowd, not to mention the thousands, if not maybe in the millions of people listening at home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sure millions.
Mm-hmm. Because, as you informed me, I didn't think about this until semi-recently when we were talking about shipping and how Nashville is a bit of a shipping hub because it's so central to most of the U.S. population. Mm-hmm. And then I went, oh, hey, dummy. That's why all the radio stations were there too.
Yep. Same with the Chattanooga Choo Choo a couple hours away. But yes, there's, I can't remember what the number is, but it's something like 80 or 90% of the U.S. population, is within the certain radius of here, because it can reach the East Coast and all the way out down to Texas and all that. Basically everywhere but the West Coast.
Yep, exactly. So I was like, oh, that's why, because radios were limited by physical distance back in the day. We didn't have the internet until many, many moons later. So anyway, that dawned on me recently. I'm like, that's actually why it's Music City, is because it's so central to everything, just like shipping.
It's a piece of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So big deal. But, Hank's 26 at this time.
Okay.
Things are looking great from the outside. You can imagine things not so great on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
He's still doing a lot of different substances, but mainly drinking.
Just kind of backed off enough to like find some success in his career, but ultimately he's still carrying those demons around with him.
He is. They have not been addressed or fixed at all. Because you didn't do that back in the day. You just dealt with it.
And he's still in pain, and there's nothing really anyone can do about the pain, I guess.
No, there's not. So to exacerbate it, this is kind of sad because I can totally see how this happens. Hank's out squirrel hunting because it's what you do. I've been squirrel hunting a time or two in my day. I can totally see this happening. He has some sort of accident and trips and falls and hurts his back even worse.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he's really messed up. And he actually gets spinal fusion surgery, which in the late 40s, early 50s,
I was going to say, it's wild to think about having spine surgery in the late 40s.
Yes, it definitely happened. But it's not the time you want to get spine surgery.
No.
If you're picking. No.
Not at all.
So now he's even in more pain. Mm-hmm. Like he's constantly just hurting so bad, and he's using a lot of morphine too and other painkillers and constantly drinking. He's trying to fight these demons the best he can, but it's not working for him. He ends up having an affair, and that's it for Audrey. She's like, nah, I'm out of here.
Did he and Audrey have kids at this point?
So I'm not sure who was all born at what time. He actually had a child named Jet from the affair. So I'm not sure of the Williams lineage, who all is, because he had 2 different wives and a mistress that is documented. So
and
I'm
yeah,
not really sure.
Who knows on the other side of it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not going to quite get into all that. This was just relevant because Audrey was the one that pushed him to do all this in the first place. So she leaves and he's just like a mess. He does end up getting remarried. But as you can guess, I said he died at 29. He's 26 now. So it's not a long time.
Yeah. We don't have too many years left.
So he, not only does that happen, he also, as you know, but not everybody knows, the Opry is a bit of a membership. You have to do certain things to perform there in the first place, and then you have to perform there a certain amount of times to be a member. And
you get a mailbox.
Yep. You got to be. It's got to be in Nashville, or is it in Tennessee? I can't remember all the rules. There's a lot of rules.
I don't know all of them, except that I recently learned that they all have mailboxes for like anyone that's a member there.
Yes. So what happens next? Oh, yes, that is. It's on August 11th, 1952. Sorry, I had to find where my notes were here. I've got a lot of notes. As people can probably tell, I'm reading a long list of things. I'm not all spouting this off from memory.
The dates I could never get down, even in history class. Like exactly what date did each thing happen? It's a lot of numbers.
So August 11th, 1952, the Opry kicks him off the roster because he's hammered. He's not showing up to performances. When he does show up, they're subpar. He's just not doing good. So they're like, sorry, Hank, you got to go. Like, I know you're literally the genre's first actual legit superstar, but you got to go because we have standards.
That's crazy. Crazy to kick out Hank Williams.
And he never did get reinstated. This is a little bit of a sidebar. One of his it would be his grandson, Hank III, tried to get him reinstated and it didn't work. Which is kind of weird.
They really were just like, no, we're sticking to it.
We're sticking to it. Yeah. I know he basically made the genre what it is, but we're going to stick to this.
That's crazy.
Yeah. This is in like the 90s or early 2000s, I think, is when he was doing that. But
that seems absurd. I mean, without knowing anything of like the history and ins and outs of all that and who's involved and why or whatever, but that just seems absurd.
It seems really ridiculous. I mean,
feels like Pete Rose in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Throw him out.
Yeah. Just never getting in.
Like, okay, what? Yeah, it's very, very odd. But so he gets kicked out and he's got to go back to the hayride. So the hayride will still have him. Not as big, but still very big. So it's not the worst thing in the world. So he's got to move back to Shreveport. Or Shreveport, I think is how you're supposed to say it, right?
I've never been to Shreveport, but I've heard, I know a few people from there, and I've heard it's a hoot and hollering good time.
I'd like to check it out. It just sounds like
kind of like a Gatlinburg sort of situation, or like Branson, Missouri. There's casinos and stuff. Yeah.
That sounds like fun. Sounds like
fun for the whole family.
Visit. Yeah.
Yeah. Games for the kids, and dad can squander away the family savings.
Ah, beautiful. That sounds exactly like where I need to go. But yeah, he goes back and he's going to the hayride, but his same problems are still continuing to plague him. He's still drunk. He's still not showing up for things, but at the same time, he's still Hank Williams. So it's kind of, they're like, this kind of seems to be their attitude. They're like, it's Hank Williams. He's literally a household name, and he's not at the Opry. He's here. So we kind of just deal with it.
Yeah. Those guys, that's a huge draw that like kind of fell into their lap. So of course they're going to tolerate whatever it takes.
Yep. So he started having some heart issues, and it's not really elaborated on from what I can tell, like what that was. If it was like palpitations or like what heart issues means exactly. But he unfortunately gets roped in by a completely fake doctor, literally a complete phony, forged the certificates, was recently in prison for forgery of other stuff, complete phony pile of garbage doctor named Toby Marshall.
Okay.
Yeah. Toby Marshall is basically on retainer for about this, ironically, from what I was gathering, about $300 a week, which is the amount of money that he was making at the radio station in modern money. But I think this was $300 a week in then money.
Oh, yeah. So it's a pretty good hustle for him.
Yes. And his job is to simply write the prescription.
Yep.
So he's getting everything. He's
not quite doing like, this isn't like a witch doctor sort of situation where he's like, oh, you don't need to take any of that medicine. I'm going to fix you with, leaves and twigs and whatnot, as very much a tradition that continues to this day on the internet of people believing all sorts of crazy nonsense. But this is more like a pill mill sort of situation. Like Hank needs this guy so he can get all the stuff that he wants.
Yep. And so all the stuff he wants. Now, it's hard to tell like how much of this was Hank's request and how much of this was like, try this. This will help. It's because it's barbiturates, it's amphetamines, it's everything. And that
seems to be the cycle people get on, where it's like, oh, you take this to go to sleep, and then this to wake you up, and then this so you can get any work done, and then this thing to relax you from the anxiety from the other thing, and then it just cycles forward.
Yeah. The most notable thing in this story that he was prescribed is something called I can't say this word right. Coral hydrate. I don't know why I struggle so much with that word, but
coral hydrate or chlorohydrate?
I've seen it spelled both ways.
Not to make you go back to it. I don't know what it is in any case. I guess it doesn't really matter.
But I'm going to tell you what it is, even though I can't say it very well for some stupid reason. It's a sedative and a hypnotic drug that was developed in the 1870s in Germany.
Oh, fun.
Currently has no known medical use according to the FDA and was pulled by all providers in 2012 willingly.
Oh. But it lasted that long
in the U.S. anyway. So it's gnarly, but a hypnotic and sedative, probably a lot of fun while you're doing it. I guess.
I was gonna say that's gonna be a wild time.
Yeah. So he's prescribed this. So Hank finds himself in Montgomery, Alabama, with a performance scheduled for December 31st in Charleston, West Virginia. This is in 1952.
The New Year's Eve show.
Yes. So he couldn't fly because there was a snowstorm. So he hires a guy it's actually a college kid named Charles Carr. Yeah. Charles Carr to drive a car to this, I mean, fitting, right? That makes sense. If I could take a car to Jimmy Mechanic, I would, like, I like that. So Charles is going to drive him. They made it to Knoxville and attempted to catch a plane from there, but they got in the plane. Snow was too bad. Still had to turn around. So
this is in Knoxville?
In Knoxville. Yeah.
Okay. See, I mean, we don't get tons of snow around these parts all that much, but if it catches you up there, there's some big hills you're going to have to go down.
Yep.
That's no fun.
So he's staying in Knoxville and he is not doing well because this whole time he's been driving in the car, he's been drinking and taking chloral hydrate.
And you got to figure also like long car ride for a guy with a bad back. Can't be a great time.
Yeah, but also he's a known addict, which is also why I was really harsh on old Toby there, because everyone knows he's an addict, and you're just like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, just take this and this and that.
Here you go. I'm not even a real doctor. What do I care? Like, he's just writing stuff. He's just such a piece of garbage. But anyway, so they call up another doctor because Charles is like, dude, this guy's not doing good. He is having problems. And that doctor gives him a shot of B12. And that shot of B12, for some reason that I can't quite figure out, also had a little bit of morphine in it.
Oh, just a little dab or two.
I'm like, why is that in the B12 shot? But apparently it was a commonish thing back then. People
were doing crazy stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. This guy was a legit doctor from what I can gather. So there's probably something to it, but still weird. And then that with all the other stuff he'd been doing, it's a recipe for disaster. So he gets the B12 shot and Carr phones up Hank's usual quote unquote doctor, Toby Marshall, and informs him that the Charleston show is canceled and needs to go up to Ohio. And this is per management. Why the management's talking to Hank's fake doctor, I have no idea. It makes no sense. I'm wondering if maybe he had his hands on the wheel more than anyone would probably have liked.
It's very possible.
It's very weird.
That's also probably the guy, if management like needs Hank to be like awake and doing work, they probably speak to his pill doctor to be like, give him amphetamines so that he can do
how do
this
you
thing.
wake him up?
Yeah.
I know, meth. It'll wake you up.
Works every time.
It definitely will wake you up for sure. What state you'll be in once you're awake, that is up for debate. But you will be awake for
If you got to clean the house, you'll get that done.
I usually recommend putting on a podcast, but everyone can do whatever they got to do. I guess
You've got the system down.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where the story starts to end because they didn't make it to Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So they get to Oak Hill, West Virginia for a fuel stop, and they discover Hank's dead. He's dead in the backseat. And he'd been dead so long that he had rigor mortis already by the time they found him.
Oh my God. Because he's probably just like zonked on this hypnotic the whole time. He hasn't been talking or anything through the car ride. And then they finally are like, Hank, come on, you got to get up. And then he's dead back there?
He's dead. Yeah.
Oh my
God. They had to carry him from the hotel to the car and he was alive. At one point they stopped for food. And the last words anybody ever heard from Hank was Charles asking him if he wanted any food. And he was just like, nah. And then just like continued to sleep in the car.
Man,
he might have died then. We don't really know, but he'd been dead for a while.
What a bleak. I mean, it's crazy to think that this guy is in this state. I mean, I get it, but like he's in this state and these people are just like trying to shuttle him around to get to the next gig still.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
like what was going to happen when he got to Ohio?
Exactly.
I mean, I assume he takes some speed and gets up and does the thing and then zonks out again. But oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then that is where Hank's story ends for him. Now, obviously, we know he became, as these things tend to do with Kurt Cobain and several others, the star shines even brighter. People are devastated, but at the same time, this is country's first superstar, and the first superstar died at the age of 29. Let's not forget that he was so incredibly young. It's crazy. Yeah. Because you look at him, he doesn't look 29.
Yeah, I mean, he had a hard 29 years, it sounds like, or at least the last dozen or so.
Yeah. So he passed, and his star, like I said, has shown only brighter. But he also has a crazy musical family. For those who aren't familiar with country music, let me just list all the Williams kids that I'm aware of.
So, I mean, I know like the lineage of Hank Jr., Hank the Third, and then 4. What does he go by 4? IV?
So, well, we've got a few here. So we got Hank Jr., Hank the Third. We got Holly Williams. And we've got Coleman Williams, who's Coleman used to be one of our artists. He might still be. I haven't heard from his team.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Sam Williams, who's also great. These are all like people that have real careers. There's probably some that are talented that are in finance or something. Who knows? Like just doing something else.
They've certainly got the connections with the name. You're gonna get an audition.
You are for sure. I mean, I think Hank Jr. By far the most famous of the kids and the grandkids. But I mean, Hank Third is he's a well-known not just for doing country and looking exactly like his grandpa, but also he's in a lot of metal bands.
Yep.
He's big in that scene too. I love Hank Third. His music is fantastic. Big fan over here. But
I always heard that he would start shows and say, he'd do like Hank songs, like Hank Williams Sr. and be like, all right, everyone that just came to hear my grandpa's music, you can leave now. And then he'd do Junior songs, be like, all right, everyone that just came to hear my dad's music, you can leave now. And now I'm going to do my stuff.
Oh man, I'd love that show.
I don't know if that's apocryphal or not, but that's what I always heard it was like.
Maybe it might be, and if it is, sign me up. I've never seen him live. I've only listened to his recordings. I'm big fan of Hank III and Jr. for that matter. And my I haven't given him quite the time I need to, but Holly, Coleman, and Sam are all in rotation with my wife. She loves all those kids, the grandkids, I believe they would be. So
yeah, are those the same lineage as Hank III, or are they underneath? Because there's a Hank IV, right? I mean, it's not his name isn't Hank, but
I mean, Junior also had a few families, so it gets a little kind of confusing on who's where. I don't mean any.
I guess when you have multi generations of people being performing musicians, that family tree looks pretty interesting.
It gets kind of splintered after a while. And if I'm saying any of this wrong, I apologize. I didn't fully research the Williams family legacy, but
when anyone's family work is driving all around the country, people have families all over.
That's right. Even if you're working for Swift Transportation. I'm making that up. No slight on anyone that drives for Swift. I'm totally joking. I was just picking a transportation company that I've seen recently. But there's a few more things. So where this originally started, what I wanted to talk about was Hank Williams ghost stories, because there are a lot of Hank Williams ghost stories floating around Nashville. But unfortunately, when I got to dig into it, there's really only one that I can really talk about. And the rest are more like, I saw Hank Williams. And it's like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And that's the end of the story. So there's a lot of people who have seen him at the Ryman. Some people think it's because he got kicked out. He's got unfinished business. He wants to be.
That's the one. Yeah. He's his ghost is just so bothered that he's not in the club anymore.
Yeah. But a lot of people have said they see him in the alley behind the Ryman going back to Tootsie's for a drink.
Yeah. I know that alley well.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. I'm going to have to keep my eye peeled. These days, there's more people in that alley. That alley's the local secret. It's how you get into Roberts or the Stage or any of those without waiting in that stupid line in the front. You just go in the back.
Weirdly, I've known about that alley since I was like 12. Or maybe younger, actually.
It's the only way I've ever gone into any of those things. Like it's not a closely guarded secret, but most of the tourists don't know.
Yeah, but
it's really wet and gross.
It's really wet and gross, and it's an alley. But yet, it's my favorite alley. I love.
It's a good alley.
Yeah,
Printer's Alley is also a good alley that's intended to be an alley. But I take your point. Yeah. Why do all alleys smell like old milk?
Because that's where you put the.
That's where you put the old milk.
Yeah, that's where you put the old milk. Exactly.
That makes some sense, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. So apparently, Hank Williams' ghost likes to hang out there a lot. But the thing I really want to talk about. There's a song called The Ride that I had you listen to before this episode. And I love this song.
David Allan Coe.
David Allan Coe.
How do you spell relief, Blake?
DAC.
No, it's another David Allan Coe song. Says,
that's right.
How do you spell relief, Blake? I get DRUNK.
Yep. David Allan Coe, awesome country musician, also controversial. Let's go ahead and address that. We know.
Yes.
but he's got some great music. His son has a great podcast, actually, Cocaine and Rhinestones. But this song in particular, The Ride, probably the first David Allan Coe song I ever heard, I'm guessing. And I can't play it for you, but go listen to it after this podcast is over. You'll be glad you did. But the way that song came about was a fella named Gary Gentry. Gary Gentry wrote The Ride along with J.B. Detterline. J.B. Detterline Jr. They were writing it for a movie called Hank. It's a Hank Williams tribute called Hank Williams Tribute: The Man and His Music, that was recorded at the Ryman. And so JB was a big Lefty Frizzell fan, and Mr. Gentry was a big Hank Williams fan. They both like, both of them, but you gravitate towards certain things sometimes. And they had been staying up late, and then they were trying to write a song for Hank, and he couldn't. It wasn't up to Gentry's standards. Gary was.
That's
not
a tall
happy.
order to write a song for this. That feels like it deserves the placement alongside all of Hank's songs.
Exactly. So he was not pleased, but they were like, "Well, we're going to call it a night." So, what does Gary reportedly do? I'm going to tell you.
Goes searching for Hank Williams' ghosts?
Yes, he does. Literally. So Gary kind of puts on a redneck seance, as he calls it. And I am going to, for the listeners, because I don't know where this clip was pulled from. I've seen it go viral a bunch of times. I don't actually know the program it was originally on. I don't have the permission to play you the original recording, but I have to play you, Scott, the original recording, so that you can hear the story of how he tells it. And what I'm going to do for the listeners and the viewers is I'm going to record my own version of it later and put it in here, because I don't want to rip someone else's content off. But I think I could, try to do a performance that won't be as good as Gary's, but I'm just going to put that in here. But for you, Scott,
you thought this through. I'm excited to hear both versions.
Yeah. So I'm going to play you this right here. And I think you're really going to like how Gary tells this story. Here we go. Let's turn the volume all the way up.
So we're off camera now.
All right, folks, in the time since Scott and I recorded this, I did figure out where this clip originally came from, and it was from a podcast by a fella named Dylan Weldon called the Drifting Cowboy Podcast, and it is excellent. I've listened to a bunch of the interviews on it now, and it's a really good show. But I didn't have time, I'm literally recording this the night before the episode drops, to reach out and ask for permission, so you're still going to get my, haphazard recreation. But I'm doing my best. Go check out the Drifting Cowboy Podcast for the original clip. All right, here we go with my version.
Well, that night I was drunk and on cocaine, and I looked down that hallway, and I had a seance going on. I said, "Hank, show yourself. Hank." And I started cussing him. I said, "Hank, why are you so big? You died young?" And I looked down that long, dim hallway. People, Hank Williams was sitting on my couch. He had on a fedora, and no shirt, and he was smoking a filterless cigarette. I said, "Mr. Williams, we gotta write a song." He was there. I felt his presence. His image only stayed visible for maybe a minute and a half. Then he disappeared visually, but he was with me. It was his idea to do the ride. How else would we be together? We were riding back up to Franklin to his old house, but he cried just south of Nashville. I don't blame him. Then he turned that car around. It's where I get off, boy. Going back to Alabama. And then I remembered Miss Audrey's line. You don't have to call him Mister, honey. The whole world called him Hank.
There you go.
What a great line.
Yeah.
What a great, I love that. You don't have to call him Mr. Son. The whole world call him Hank.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man. It gives me goosebumps.
That's incredible. I mean, for one, I wonder who was playing the theremin in the background of that clip. I don't know if it'll come through on your version or not, but in the real one, there's a very funny woo.
Yeah, I might have to put some like synthy something going on there just to give it the same air.
I don't know why all ghosts play the theremin, and it doesn't really make sense either because ghosts, you wouldn't think the theremin would react to a ghost hand the way it does. I wouldn't think so. But they managed to. But that's wild. So he's there. I mean, I don't know. Grain of salt on this particular take.
Line, though, right?
Remind me.
I was drunk and on cocaine.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. Sorry. There's some of that afoot as well. But I like the idea. I guess it fits. He pretty much summoned Hank from wherever the heck he was. And he didn't have no time to put a shirt on.
No. He's
just there.
He had a hat, though.
Shirtless. He had a hat on.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of circumstances in life where I'm wearing a fedora with no shirt on.
Well, I will say this. There are a
that
few
I can think of
Hank with no shirt on smoking.
I mentioned that my wife's Italian, so.
Oh, that's true.
Occasionally.
Right.
She likes me to put the fedora on and take my shirt off.
Yeah, I get it. That makes sense. This pencils. Yeah.
But outside of that, I didn't realize that he was photographed in this manner.
Yes.
Frequently.
I'm not sure about the fedora part, but definitely shirtless smoking for sure.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. There's probably a fedora one. I'm not sure. But yeah, the fact that Hank wasn't around that long and cameras weren't really a thing the way they are now, and the fact that he's got multiple shirtless photos is kind of interesting.
It is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't it's kind of weird now I think about it.
And these shirtless photos are emblazoned on the wall ahead of you that we can't see in the camera?
Maybe. That's none of your business.
Nope. Yeah. Sure ain't.
No, I'm not going to tell you. Anyway, that clip is actually what inspired me to want to talk about this in the first place. And then I realized that when I'm going through, I'm like, might as well just tell the sad story of Hank Williams.
Of course.
Go from there, because the ghost stories weren't actually enough to do an episode on, but that clip was so good. I was like, there's got to be more here.
That's incredible. I want to believe this, though, as a man who's spent some time in the music industry, it's it might all be a way to sell some records.
You know what?
It's hard to say.
This is a way to sell records, but there's another little tidbit I want to leave everybody with about this story. So David Allan Coe drops that song. It's a smash.
Mhm.
It's a huge hit. People love it. It's a great song. So Gary is at the Opry, the current location. Remember I said this was going to play in?
Yep.
And this was reported in multiple papers. He gets to the line. The whole world called me Hank.
Mhm.
The entire facility, not just the Opry like performance center, but the whole facility around it. Boom, power goes out when he hits that line.
What?
Yeah. For that really did happen. So
That's crazy. And again, maybe that's somebody pulling some lever somewhere. I don't know.
You'd have to do the whole facility. If it was just that building, I'd be like, they made that happen. They just cut the main, but to the whole facility, that's a big deal.
Yeah, no kidding.
Mm-hmm. And for people's reference, this would be like the whole mall shut down.
Yeah,
basically. So not just one store in the mall, but the whole thing. So yeah, he's like, the whole world call me Hank, and boom, power.
That's bonkers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like that's a good place to wrap up this tale.
Do you believe in Hank Williams' ghost?
My wife jokingly, before we were recording this, said, I forgot to tell you, I saw Hank Williams' ghost in the alley. And I was like, if you see Hank Williams' ghost in the alley and you don't tell me about it until now, I'm going to freak out because I want to see Hank Williams' ghost in the alley. Okay.
Of course.
I choose to believe it because I want to see it. Let's put it that way.
I have never known to look.
Probably won't, but I want to.
But now I'm going to have my eyes out.
Mm-hmm.
It does strike me that there's probably a hustle available to some enterprising, slender, tall young man.
Hank the Third?
to just go to that alley behind Roberts and Tootsie's and dress up like Hank Williams and be Hank Williams' ghost.
I bet during Halloween you can make a few bucks.
I'll have to check out the shirtless photos, but I don't think I probably have the body.
Yeah.
I feel like he's a tall, slender man.
Well, you eat food.
Yeah.
I don't think he did a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Hank Williams diet is hopefully not the next fad diet, but that'll leave you skinny.
Well, you hear how it happened or how it shakes out, so I don't recommend it. But that's the story. That's what I got for you today.
Well, that was wild. I knew a lot about Hank Williams, but not all of it. So that was super cool to revisit. The ghost stuff, I feel ashamed. Kind of brand new to me. I mean, the phrase Hank Williams ghost has it entered my lexicon previously.
That's also
this is
David
familiar.
Allan Coe song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so. He went back to the back to the creek again.
Yes, he did.
Might still be water there.
Mm-hmm.
That old well.
I mean, he's got something there. But yeah, that's a good song too. But it's not quite to the level of The Ride.
Wow, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. I always wonder with the people, if you let's say you made up the ghost thing, right? And then let's say you made a big song about it, and then it got really, really popular. And then what happens if at that point, then the real Hank Williams ghost shows up to be like, hey, I didn't like that you made up that I came to you and did it to Soul Records. And then do you go public with that where you're like, I was lying the first time, but then, oh my God, there it was. Or maybe if he didn't believe the ghost thing, then the Ryman thing happens and he's like, oh my God, maybe there's something to it. Who knows? Well, I'm sure he believes it. I don't mean to question the man's story. It seems pretty airtight from his telling.
I'd like to hear it myself. So if Gary, you want to come on the show and tell us about it from your perspective in maybe a longer format, because that was only like a minute 20 clip. Again, I'm not sure where that originally came from because I saw it reposted a bunch of times on different channels. So I'm not 100% like what he's sitting down in front of an SM7B on a podcast. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming a podcast. It very much looks like a podcast. So I'm not sure who originally recorded that clip. And that is why I'm not going to put it in here because I can't ask them. So
we'll work on it. Well, for all of you out there, as we mentioned, we don't presently have a name for this podcast, but by the time you're hearing it, there will be a name. So whatever name that name was, look at your phone and go ahead and give us a follow or alongside the name that will be present in the future.
Yes.
And we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
That was as eloquent as you possibly could have done it with a nameless podcast.
Thank you.
I salute you for that.
I do what I can.
Yeah. Thank you, folks. Do your part. Leave a heart. Drop us a comment. If we got anything completely wrong, tell us. Give us some sources, though, because, I want to do some research. Let me know. Let me know if there are any Hank Williams ghost stories. Drop those in the comments as well. I want to hear your personal Hank Williams ghost story if you have one, or just a cool ghost story in general. I'll read it. I'll read that comment. Go for it. So, all right. We done? Wrapping this up?
We done.
All right. Later, folks.